Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The show that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside. Let's dive in. What if everything about the one-person business freedom movement isn't just wrong, but is designed to be wrong?
Oh. That's the big question we're tackling today.
It really is.
And you, our listener, you've brought us this, intense source material. It's basically an analytical guide aiming to expose what it calls the ideological architecture of digital solopreneurship.
Yeah, and it's an architecture you see, everywhere online, isn't it? We're definitely not here today to give out, handy marketing tips or productivity hacks.
No, quite the opposite.
Right. We're tracing the ideas, the conceptual threads, specifically how this language of rebellion, of freedom, of independence, how it's been cleverly, maybe cynically transformed.
Transformed into what exactly? Into a system. A system designed for, automated economic capture. So our mission here really is to arm you, to give you a kind of cognitive liberation from this self-justifying loop.
So exposing the sovereign entrepreneur fantasy, seeing it for the construct it is.
That's the goal. Let's pull it apart.
Okay, let's get the scalpel out. Every powerful ideology, it seems, needs these foundational beliefs, things you just accept. The sources call this the core deception, and it's built on what they term axioms of false autonomy.
Starting blocks, really.
So where do we begin? What's the first big one, the one that gives it that real punch?
Right. Well, the language itself is key here. It's incredibly seductive because it taps into really basic human desires. So the first pillar, the first axiom, is the axiom of radical autonomy.
Radical autonomy, okay.
It's this philosophy, this core belief that the absolute ultimate goal in life, the peak, is defined by this very specific freedom to do what I want with whom I want whenever I want.
Wow. Yeah, you can immediately see the appeal. It's powerful language.
It is.
But it's not just promoting freedom, is it? It seems like it's setting something up. It positions personal sovereignty, that individual freedom, as being fundamentally, the opposite of collective structures. Like, they can't coexist.
Exactly. That's the critical move right there. It immediately frames relying on a team or, a company, an institution, even shared resources. It frames all that as basically failing, as compromise, as not achieving the real goal.
So it sets up this this false dichotomy, this zero-sum game.
Precisely. You can either have total radical individual autonomy, the ideal, or you have, the messy reality of working with others, of collective effort, of compromise.
And by making radical autonomy the prize.
It cleverly steers people away from maybe, just maybe, thinking about fixing bad workplaces through, say, organizing or demanding better conditions together. Instead, it pushes them towards isolation, towards these solo ventures.
The ultimate go-it-alone mindset, but sold as liberation.
That's it in a nutshell.
But hang on, surely everyone does want more control over their time, their money. Isn't wanting to escape a terrible boss or a toxic workplace a completely valid feeling?
Oh, absolutely valid. And that's where the next axiom comes in. It's the axiom of control. And it's genius, really, because it takes that totally valid desire, that frustration, but then it misdiagnoses the root cause of the problem.
How so? Misdiagnoses burnout.
Exactly. We've all felt burnout, right, in traditional jobs. But this ideology steps in and says, you see, burnout isn't just about being overworked. It's not the sheer volume of work. No. It claims burnout happens specifically because of a loss of control.
Okay, there it is. That's the ideological judo flip you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
It takes these big systemic issues, impossible deadlines, bad management, not enough staff, and it just completely reframes them, makes them about personal failure.
Right. So if you're burning out in your 9 to 5, the narrative isn't this company structure is fundamentally broken and exploitative. No. It's, you didn't set strong enough boundaries, or you didn't use the right time management app, or you failed to optimize your workflow.
That's insidious.
It's absolutely essential for the ideology, though, because it convinces you, the individual, that the fix isn't fixing the system or leaving for a better system, but abandoning systems altogether, and then taking all the labor, all the pressure onto yourself.
But now with this added layer of, moral pressure, because you're the boss now.
Exactly. Self-management becomes a moral test.
So let me get this straight. Instead of pushing back, maybe collectively, for a reasonable, say, 40-hour work week from your employer, The proposed solution is to ditch that system entirely, start your own thing, and then, because you're now responsible for absolutely everything from sales to marketing to delivery to admin, you end up willingly working, I don't know, 80 hours a week. But you tell yourself it's fine, it's better, because, hey, I chose these 80 hours.
You're in control now.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. You've just swapped a visible boss for this relentless, internalized boss that never clocks off. Wow. Okay. That hits hard.
It does. Yeah. And then how do you actually succeed in this new self-managed structure? Where does the value supposedly come from?
Good question.
That brings us to the third piece, the axiom of attention capital.
Oh.
This one asserts that the main way you create value, especially online, is through building an audience organically.
Just attention capital. Go.
The core idea is brutally simple. Visibility equals viability. If people see you, your business can survive. If they don't, you're dead in the water.
That sounds, well, it sounds kind of obvious for anyone using social media for business, right? But what are the deeper implications here, ideologically?
The implication is huge. If visibility is viability, then the actual value isn't necessarily in the quality of the thing you sell, your service, your product. It shifts. The primary value becomes the efficiency of your performance on the platforms, how well you capture attention.
Which means?
Yeah.
Which means your time is infinitely better spent creating content about what you do than actually doing it.
Tigopu. Or at least that's the pressure. And suddenly, content creation isn't just, a marketing task you do on the side.
No, it becomes existential.
Exactly. It's a core business function.
Yeah.
And according to this ideology, it's almost a moral imperative. If you're not constantly putting yourself out there, feeding the algorithm, being visible...
You're failing. It's your fault you're not succeeding because you didn't hustle hard enough on your content.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It always comes back to individual effort and adherence to the axioms.
Okay, so these three axioms, radical autonomy, control, attention capital, they build on each other to reach this derived conclusion.
Which is?
That the one-person business, the solopreneur model, is presented as the absolute best, the optimal way to escape the corporate grind.
The exploitation.
While still, crucially, maintaining your income potential. Or even exceeding it. It's the perfect sales pitch, isn't it? Freedom and money.
It's the dream they sell.
Yeah.
And that leads directly to what you actually sell. Or rather, who you sell.
Right. The product becomes you.
Yes. This is where authenticity as a commodity comes in. Authenticity stops being, a personal quality, a virtue.
And becomes
a marketable asset, something you package and sell. You're actively encouraged to find and then perform your niche of one.
your unique blend of what? Personal story, trauma, skills.
Exactly. Your unique lived experience. You are literally selling you. The entire business is built on the idea that you are uniquely, irreplicably you.
But the moment you start monetizing yourself, your authenticity, doesn't that create a problem? Surely you then have to start kind of tweaking that self based on what sells, based on engagement metrics, audience feedback.
That's the trap. Authenticity stops being about genuine self-expression or truth. It becomes a performance, a highly curated, rigorously tested, optimized for conversion performance.
You're performing realness to maximize clicks and sales.
And the kicker is, the more successful you get at selling this authentic self, the harder you have to work to maintain the illusion of the genuine, maybe slightly struggling, boundary-setting person you claim to be at the start.
Because that initial relatability was the hook.
Right. It's this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Commercial success actively undermines the very authenticity that you're supposedly built on. Okay, so we've seen the core beliefs. Let's pivot a bit now. Let's look at how this ideology actually hooks people. Because it's not just a rational business plan people are dying into, is it?
No, it feels much more emotional, like it's tapping into something deeper.
Exactly. The sources describe it as a kind of emotional rescue mission. It targets specific vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And the first step in this psychological capture is establishing expertise through shared suffering.
Which sounds a lot like...
What we'd probably call trauma bonding.
Yes. This feels familiar. It's like the standard opening for so many online gurus, right? They don't lead with their Lamborghini.
Not usually. No, they start with the breakdown, the rock bottom moment. Often it's the dramatic, soul-crushing corporate burnout story.
The I cried in the bathroom stall narrative.
That exact narrative. They use their past pain, their burnout, their panic attacks to establish their credentials, their expertise.
It's counterintuitive, but it works. How?
Think about it. By sharing that trauma story, I got fired, I nearly lost everything, my corporate job destroyed my health. They create this instant, powerful connection with the audience who are likely feeling that same pain right now.
Shared suffering, it makes them seem relatable, human.
More than relatable, it establishes authority. The guru becomes the survivor. They've been through the fire that the audience is currently in.
And therefore they know the way out.
Precisely. I suffered like you, now follow my path, buy my system, and you can survive too.
But wait, isn't vulnerability a good thing? Isn't sharing struggles key to building real connection online and offline? Where's the line here?
That's the crucial distinction, isn't it? Genuine vulnerability, genuine sharing is usually reciprocal. It builds mutual understanding.
Okay.
Trauma bonding for commercial gain is fundamentally asymmetrical. The guru shares their past, curated suffering to gain the authority to sell a solution to your present uncurated suffering.
It's a transaction disguised as connection.
You got it. A very powerful emotional lever to pull.
Okay, so they establish that bond through shared pain. What's next?
Once that emotional connection is there, they start to activate fear and status anxiety. This is done by constantly painting this really stark, often frankly exaggerated picture.
Yeah.
A dichotomy between the hell of corporate life and the heaven of solopreneurship.
Right. The source mentioned an example, something like the stress of managing 150 people, $300 VC, versus the serene image of taking phoneless walks.
Exactly. It's designed to trigger fear. They contrast overwhelming corporate complexity and pressure with this idealized vision of simple personal well-being and, crucially, control.
And this plays on loss aversion, right? Constantly reminding people what they stand to lose if they don't succeed at this or if they go back.
Yes. You risk returning to the chaos, the pointless meetings, the abusive boss, the soul-crushing commute. But it's also about status.
How so?
The underlying message is, if you fail as a solopreneur, you're not just losing income. You're failing to become that idealized, autonomous, healthy person who takes those phoneless walks. You failed the dream. There's a definite status anxiety baked in.
And this is reinforced by, what was it, reactance theory?
Ah, yes. Reactance theory. It's a well-known psychological principle. Basically, when people feel their freedom is being restricted or someone tells them they can't do something, their immediate reaction is often to push back, to assert their autonomy, to do the forbidden
The
thing.
inner rebel kicks in.
Precisely. And that do what you want whenever you want mantra. It pushes that button hard.
So the gurus deliberately frame traditional employment not just as, sometimes unpleasant, but as an active constraint on your fundamental freedom.
They often do.
Yeah.
Yes. By triggering your reactants that make the jump into the uncertain, often risky world of solopreneurship feel like the only psychologically authentic choice. It stops feeling like a purely financial or logistical decision.
And starts feeling like an act of rebellion, a necessary escape, even if the economics are shaky.
Even then, it becomes a psychological imperative, not just a business one.
Which then leads, I suppose, to building the tribe.
Exactly. The final psychological hook is creating the elite in-group, fostering a powerful sense of tribal identity.
And how do they do that? I've seen this pattern.
A key tactic is pushing the narrative that your friends, your family, they just won't understand what you're doing. They don't get this path.
Ah, yes, the outsiders don't get it line. That's classic high-commitment group stuff, isn't it? Cults use that.
It's a very effective technique for isolation, unfortunately. It subtly drives a wedge between the individual and their existing real-world support network, the very people who might offer a reality check, or question the 80-hour weeks, or point out the financial risks.
And replaces that network with?
The digital tribe, the online community, the mastermind group. You're encouraged to see yourself as part of this special cohort. You're one of the enlightened ones, the action takers, the sovereign few who really understand. Everyone else is stuck in the old ways.
So it offers this sense of elite affiliation, belonging to something special.
Absolutely. You feel unique, maybe even superior, because your path is supposedly too advanced, too unconventional for your old circle to grasp. You're not just running a small business. You've joined a movement. You're part of a select group of forward thinkers.
And often you're paying quite a bit for that feeling of belonging through those high-ticket courses or communities.
That's frequently part of the model, yes.
Yeah.
Membership has its price.
Okay, so we've mapped out the psychological hooks, the emotional architecture. Now let's get clinical. Let's use this deconstruction matrix from the sources to really pinpoint the systemic deceptions. And crucially, let's follow the power. Ask, cui bono, who benefits when you buy into the lie?
Right. Let's trace the flow of power and profit. Where should we start?
Let's start with the absolute core image, the central promise of the whole thing.
Okay.
Deception 1. The sovereign individual entrepreneur. The big lie, the foundational myth, is that this path genuinely offers true liberation, real self-governance, freedom.
That's the promise, loud and clear. But the reality, according to this analysis, is, well, it's pretty chilling. It suggests you're not escaping hierarchy at all. You're just replacing the external visible boss in the corner office
With what?
with an internalized optimization tyranny and complete dependence on algorithms you don't understand or control. It's the ultimate self-policing system.
Internalized optimization tyranny. Unpack that. What does that actually look like day to day for the solopreneur?
It looks like constant, relentless self-monitoring. It's the pressure to measure, track, and improve every single aspect of your life that could possibly maybe impact your output, your visibility, your brand. Like optimizing your sleep schedule, not just for health, but for peak content creativity. Tracking your water intake because dehydration might, lower your engagement energy. Timing your lunch break precisely to avoid that post-meal slump that could slow down your funnel optimization work.
So no manager breathing down your neck.
No. But you've got your spreadsheets, your habit trackers, your analytics dashboards, and this constant inner voice demanding peak performance 24/7. And the performance standards, they're effectively set by opaque algorithms and market trends you have zero control over.
And if the numbers dip, if engagement falls,
It's entirely on you. It leads to intense self-blame, anxiety, and usually just doubling down on the hustle, working even harder, optimizing even more relentlessly.
Okay, so who actually benefits from this? The self-flagellation.
Well, the primary beneficiaries are pretty clear. First, the guru class. The people selling the specific proven systems, the productivity hacks, the optimization courses, the mindset coaching needed to maintain this pace.
They sell the tools for your self-tyranny.
Essentially, yes. And second, the platform algorithms themselves. They thrive on this constant, predictable, high-volume stream of user-generated content and data. The internalized pressure ensures the content mill never stops churning.
This feels like it connects to something historical. The source mentioned a parallel.
Ah, yes. The Protestant work ethic digital rebrand, a really sharp observation.
Max Weber stuff, right. The idea that worldly success, wealth, was seen by Puritans as a sign of God's favor, of being one of the elect.
Exactly. And now, fast forward to today. Digital success, the passive income streams, the huge audience, the curated lifestyle, it's implicitly positioned as a sign of personal virtue. It signals superior self-discipline, hustle, mindset, almost a kind of secular state of grace.
So if you don't achieve that level of success, visible wealth and freedom.
It's not just an economic failure in a tough market. The ideology frames it as a moral failure. You lacked the necessary hustle. You didn't manifest it hard enough. You didn't optimize correctly. You didn't believe enough. It uses shame as a powerful enforcement mechanism.
Wow. Okay. Let's move to the second deception. Deception 2. Attention economy as natural law.
Right. The lie here is that this constant grinding need to create content, to be visible, is just how things are now. It's presented as an unavoidable natural feature of the modern digital world, like gravity.
Just the price of doing business online, accept it.
Yeah. But the reality, the source argues, is that accepting this premise leads directly to enslavement. Enslavement to chasing virality, to gaming the algorithm, and to the really deep, quite disturbing commodification of your own life and experiences.
We touched on this, the idea that your thoughts, your feelings, your struggles, even your private moments, they only have value if they can be packaged and traded for likes, shares, and eventually sales.
It's relentless. Everything becomes potential content. And who benefits most from this setup?
This one seems pretty straightforward. The social media platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Absolutely. They've created the perfect business model, haven't they? They provide the infrastructure, the digital town square.
And then millions of aspiring sovereign individuals work tirelessly for free to fill that square with engaging content, paying the platform with their labor and data in exchange for the chance to maybe reach an audience.
It's brilliant. From their perspective, zero content acquisition cost. And this brings us to another stark historical parallel the source draws.
Which is?
The feudal tithe system.
Okay, explain that connection. Tithe. Like paying the church or the Lord.
Exactly. In the feudal system, the serf, the peasant, had to pay a tithe, a portion of their crops, their produce, their labor to the feudal lord. And what did they get in return?
The right to live on and work the Lord's land.
Precisely. Now map that onto the digital world.
Yeah.
The solopreneur, the creator, pays a constant tithe. What's the tithe?
Their content, their posts, videos, articles, data.
Right. They pay this perpetual content tithe to the platform lords, Meta, Google, etc., who own the digital land. And what's the digital land?
The audience feed. The access to viewers, to potential customers.
Exactly. You pay the content tithe for the privilege of accessing the audience that the platform controls.
The power dynamic seems identical. The platform lord dictates the terms.
Completely. If Instagram decides tomorrow that Reels are king and static image reach plummets, what happens?
The digital serf, the creator, has no choice but to immediately pivot their entire production. They have to start making reels, whether they want to or not, just to keep paying the tide and maintain their access.
It demonstrates unequivocally who holds the power. It's not the sovereign creator, it's the platform that owns the land and controls the algorithm.
It's economic subservience dressed up as entrepreneurial freedom.
That's a very succinct way to put it.
Okay, on to deception 3. Authenticity as sales funnel. We've kind of danced around this, but let's nail it down. The lie, the seductive part, is that sharing your true self, your vulnerability, builds genuine community and trust.
And that this trust naturally leads to organic growth in sales. Be real, be relatable, and they will buy.
But we already established this realness is often a performance, so the reality is...
The reality is that this relentless demand for performative authenticity leads to, well, the erosion of any actual private self. And it requires constant self-surveillance. You're always monitoring yourself.
Always asking, is this thought, this feeling, this anecdote, is it on brand? Will it resonate with my target demographic? Can I monetize this vulnerability?
Yes. You become the perpetual auditor of your own inner life, policing your thoughts and emotions to ensure they align with a commercially viable narrative. Privacy dissolves.
Who benefits from this performance of authenticity?
Well, certainly the creators who are particularly skilled at this kind of emotional performance. The ones who master the art of calculated vulnerability, who can project intimacy on demand. And of course, those who then sell courses, teaching others how to perform their authenticity effectively.
It becomes a teachable, marketable skill.
Absolutely. And the historical parallel the source uses here is spot on. Reality TV's false intimacy.
Yeah. Makes sense. You feel like you know the reality TV star because they share so much they break the fourth wall.
But it's all carefully produced, edited, and manufactured to create that feeling of closeness. That false intimacy builds trust, lowers your critical defenses.
And makes you more receptive when the sponsored product placement appears, or in the solopreneur context, when the pitch for the high-ticket program arrives.
Exactly. The performed authenticity is the top of the sales funnel.
Okay, final one. Deception 4. Anti-scalable diversification. This sounds a bit counterintuitive. Diversification is usually seen as good, right?
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
In traditional finance, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
But here, the lie is subtly different. It's the specific type of diversification that's promoted.
Which is?
It's the idea that having lots of small, often low-priced digital products, you know, the $49 ebook, the $99 template bundle, the $27 mini course, the paid newsletter provides better, safer, more robust risk management than focusing on building one or two larger, more scalable offerings or services.
Spreading the risk across tiny bets. Why is that a deception?
Because, according to the analysis, the reality of managing, marketing, and maintaining dozens of these tiny disconnected products results in the complete atomization of labor.
Atomization, meaning?
Meaning you're stretched incredibly thin, constantly context switching between managing your Gumroad templates, your Substack, your Canva designs, your teachable mini course. You're forced to operate entirely solo, fragmented, focusing intensely inward just to keep all these little plates spinning.
And the consequence of that atomization is?
It actively prevents any potential for collective action or solidarity. If your entire business reality is this fragmented, hyper-individualized hustle across multiple platforms and products,
you're never going to have the time, energy, or even the shared context to connect with other creators and say, hey, maybe we should collectively push back against platform fees, or maybe this dominant guru's advice is actually harmful.
Exactly. You're too busy managing your own complex, deliberately non-scalable micro-empire.
So who benefits from keeping everyone atomized like this?
Again, the gurus who sell the strategies and templates for creating these fragmented income streams. By championing the one-person business model built on diversification into tiny products, they ensure the whole creator economy remains decentralized, individualized, and fundamentally unaccountable.
They avoid the messiness of building real organizations themselves. No HR departments, no payroll, no benefits negotiations, no potential for worker organization.
Precisely. They get to be the thought leaders, selling the dream, without any of the responsibilities of actual employers or organizational leaders. And the historical parallel here is also quite feudal.
Let me guess. Keeping the peasants separate.
You got it. The feudal lord preventing unified counterpower by maintaining disconnected serfdoms. Keep each serf focused solely on cultivating their own small plot of land. Make sure they don't talk to each other too much or realize their shared interests. And you effectively prevent any chance of an uprising or collective bargaining against the lord who owns the whole system.
It's a deliberate strategy of fragmentation, but it's sold as smart, modern risk management.
Divide and conquer, repackaged for the digital age.
Right. We've dissected the deceptions, identified the beneficiaries. Now, let's really get into the nuts and bolts of how the money actually flows, how the labor is obscured, and why this whole thing seems designed to trap people, not free them. Let's talk about the monetization funnel and labor obfuscation.
Okay, yeah. This funnel is often presented as a natural progression, but the analysis suggests it's engineered quite deliberately to extract maximum value, often from labor that isn't even recognized as labor.
How does it start?
It often starts with service before product. The advice is usually begin by offering high-touch, often high-cost services. Consulting, coaching, done-for-you work.
And the justification is usually learn the market, validate your ideas, get paid to do research.
Exactly. It's framed as learning.
Yeah.
But the sources argue this initial phase is actually a crucial mechanism for monetizing unpaid audience-building labor.
How does that work?
While you're delivering that service to your first few clients, you're not just getting paid for the service hours. You are simultaneously gathering incredibly specific market data, refining your unique process or framework based on their problems, collecting powerful testimonials, and building case studies.
So the client is essentially funding the R&D for your future, more scalable products.
Precisely. It's intellectual capital development, subsidized by those initial high-ticket clients. Work that will pay off massively later, but isn't framed that way up front.
Okay, so you do the service, you gather the intel, then what?
Then comes productization and double extraction. You take all that knowledge, that framework, those insights gained from the service work, and you automate it. You package it.
Into an online course, a digital download, a template library, a membership site.
Exactly. And this allows you to extract value from the same core intellectual property a second time, but now at scale. The first client paid premium for the bespoke version. Now potentially thousands pay a lower price for the standardized, automated version.
Double dipping on the same knowledge base.
Essentially, yes. And the transition from high-touch service to lower-cost product often relies heavily on a specific psychological pricing strategy.
Jizz.
Impulse pricing. Setting the price for these initial digital products usually somewhere in the, say, $50 to $150 range. Maybe up to $200.
Why that specific range?
Because it's low enough to feel like a relatively low-risk purchase. It bypasses extensive deliberation. If it was like an impulse buy, a no-brainer tool or resource that might just help. You don't agonize over a $97 purchase the way you would over $2,000.
Okay, makes sense. But what's the longer-term effect?
It creates what the sources call a sunk cost pathway. Once you've got that $97 template or mini course, you're invested, psychologically and financially, even if just a little.
Right.
So when the same guru later offers their $1,997 signature course or their $5,000 mastermind, it doesn't feel like starting from zero. It feels like the logical next step to maximize your initial smaller investment. If you don't upgrade, maybe that first $97 was wasted. It creates pressure to escalate your commitment.
The impulse buy is the entry drug to the ecosystem.
A harsh way to put it, but psychologically, that's how it can function.
Yes.
And all of this requires immense effort. The service delivery, the product creation, the marketing, how is that hidden? How is the sheer volume of work obscured? Well, that's where the ultimate piece of rhetorical camouflage comes in. The illusion of the 4-hour workday. Or the 4-hour work week, even.
The Tim Ferriss dream? Still echoing.
Still incredibly potent. This kind of rhetoric doesn't just downplay the work involved, it actively masks the reality. The reality of running the content creation machine nonstop, the constant community management, the DMs, the emails, the tech troubleshooting, the endless self-promotion, the need to always be optimizing yourself and your brand.
The actual labor required isn't 4 hours a week. It's closer to...
And 24/7 brand maintenance.
Yeah.
Because the moment you stop posting, stop engaging, stop feeding the algorithm, stop being visible, the whole precarious structure can grind to a halt very, very quickly. The passive income requires incredibly active, ongoing labor to sustain.
Okay, so the labor is obfuscated. What about the complexity? How do they make it seem like you need their specific guidance?
Through complexity barriers and obfuscation tactics. The path is often made to seem more complicated than it is, making the guru's proprietary system feel essential.
How do they build those barriers?
A primary tool is what the source calls the flywheel illusion. You see these diagrams everywhere, right? A nice, smooth circle. Create content, attract audience, sell product to you, get testimonials, create more content.
Yeah, it looks so clean, effortless almost, like perpetual motion.
Exactly. It's presented as this natural, inevitable, self-sustaining cycle. But what does that smooth circle deliberately hide?
The enormous amount of upfront effort, luck, privilege, maybe existing connections, and just sheer grinding, often unsustainable labor needed just to get the damn wheel to make its first turn.
Precisely. It hides the brutal initial friction. So if the diagram looks easy, but your reality is exhausting struggle.
The conclusion you draw is, I must be doing it wrong. I'm missing a key piece.
Yeah.
I need to buy the guru's secret map to make my flywheel spin smoothly.
Exactly. It creates demand for their supposedly proprietary knowledge.
And that knowledge is often wrapped up in jargon.
Yes. Jargon obfuscation, creating a whole specialized vocabulary, things like trust tripwires, value ladders, productizing your service, content matrix, audience funnel stacking.
Do these terms actually represent unique, groundbreaking concepts?
Sometimes they package existing ideas neatly, but often they're just fancy rebranding of pretty standard marketing or business principles. The effect, though, is to make the knowledge seem exclusive, proprietary, like a secret code you need to pay to learn. It creates an artificial barrier to entry.
And this is made worse by what the sources called process fetishization.
Yeah, this is the obsessive focus on the tiny details, the specific tools, the exact tactics, micromanaging the process.
Like agonizing over whether you should use ConvertKit or MailChimp, or whether the perfect time to post on LinkedIn is 8:47 a.m. or 9:03 a.m., or spending hours choosing the perfect font for your sales page.
Exactly that kind of stuff. Obsessing over the minutia of the how, using the specific recommended app. Hemingway app, Hype Fury, whatever's trendy.
And the function of this process fetishization is...
It serves as a massive distraction. If you're consumed by anxiety about whether your headline has the right power words, or if your email automation sequence is perfectly optimized according to the guru's latest template,
you don't have the mental bandwidth left to step back and ask the really big, uncomfortable existential questions.
like, is this entire business model actually viable for me long-term without burning me out completely? Or is this path fundamentally dependent on platform algorithms I can't control? Or am I just caught in a cycle of buying products from someone who basically got lucky or started earlier?
Focusing on the tools distracts from questioning the validity of the entire journey.
Precisely. Keep them busy optimizing the tactics so they don't question the strategy.
Okay, so the whole system seems riddled with these vulnerabilities, these internal contradictions.
Deeply so. The source highlights a few key systemic vulnerabilities.
We touched on the first one already, the authenticity paradox.
Right, the fundamental contradiction. The moment you start consciously performing and optimizing your realness for commercial gain, it ceases to be authentic. It becomes a calculated strategy. You can't be strategically vulnerable. It's an oxymoron.
And the second vulnerability.
The control illusion. This is huge. The core promise is escape from the corporate boss, gaining control. But what are you actually trading that boss for?
You said it earlier. 2 new masters.
Yeah.
Invisible ones.
Exactly. You become subservient to the whims of algorithmic changes on platforms you don't own and the shifting, often fickle expectations of your audience.
And you argued these are actually worse bosses than a human manager?
In many ways, yes. A human boss, however bad, operates within some constraints. Labor laws, HR policies, company culture, maybe even basic human decency sometimes. An algorithm has none of that.
Right.
If YouTube changes its monetization policy overnight or Facebook tweaks its newsfeed algorithm, your entire business model, your income stream, can be decimated instantly. And you have zero recourse. You can't file a grievance with an algorithm. You can't negotiate your terms. You can't form a union against shifting audience tastes. The control is entirely illusory. You've swapped predictable constraints for radical uncertainty.
Which leads directly to the final and maybe most brutal contradiction.
The freedom trap. The ultimate irony.
The constant 200/4/7 need to perform your brand, create content, engage, monitor, optimize. It doesn't lead to more freedom. It leads to
The more pervasive integration of work into every corner of your life than most traditional jobs ever demand. There is no off switch. You can't leave work at the office because you are the brand, you are the office.
your thoughts, your relationships, your health struggles, your weekend activities. It all becomes potential grist for the content mill, raw material to feed the brand machine.
You haven't escaped the 40-hour work week. You've potentially traded it for a 168-hour work identity that demands perpetual performance and optimization.
That's not freedom. That's total capture.
It's the freedom trap. So to really grasp why this system is so sticky, why it feels so compelling, despite these contradictions, we need to understand where it comes from. It didn't just appear out of nowhere. The sources argue it has a deep ideological lineage.
It's not new, it's just repackaged.
In many ways, yes. It's a modern iteration of much older structures of thought and power.
Okay, where does the lineage start? We mentioned it before.
The Protestant work ethic, as Max Weber famously analyzed it, this is really the bedrock. The deeply ingrained cultural idea that hard work, discipline, and especially the accumulation of wealth aren't just economic activities. They are signs of moral virtue, maybe even divine favor.
Success isn't just success, it's proof of good character.
Right. And failure isn't just failure. It's a sign of weak character, lack of discipline, insufficient faith, or hustle. This connection between wealth and morality is incredibly powerful and runs deep in Western culture. The solopreneur hustle taps directly into it. Your success becomes a testament to your superior mindset and discipline.
And this connects to that idea of internalized control.
Perfectly. It feeds right into the concept of neoliberal subjectivity, which thinkers like Michel Foucault explored. This is a really key idea for understanding the internalized optimization tyranny we talked about.
Okay, refresh me. Neoliberal subjectivity means?
It's essentially the shift from external forms of discipline, like the factory foreman, the visible boss, the rigid timetable, to internalized forms of governance. The individual is encouraged, expected, almost required, to become the manager of their own life.
The entrepreneur of the self.
Exactly. You are responsible for constantly monitoring, improving, optimizing yourself. You don't need an external authority forcing you to be productive. You internalize that pressure. You become your own relentless supervisor, managing your human capital like a business asset.
And the digital solopreneur is like the ultimate expression of this, constantly self-auditing, self-optimizing, self-disciplining.
They're the poster child for neoliberal subjectivity, yes. Which leads us to the third pillar of this lineage, human capital theory.
Gary Becker, right. The idea that individuals are businesses.
Fundamentally, yes. The idea that your skills, your knowledge, your network, your health, even your reputation, it's all capital that you are personally responsible for investing in and maximizing the return on. Your life becomes a balance sheet.
So you put these three together, the morality of wealth, Protestant ethic, the self-policing individual, neoliberal subjectivity, and the idea of the self as a business, human capital theory.
And you get the perfect ideological storm. The perfect mental framework to make the sovereign entrepreneur fantasy feel not just appealing, but necessary, natural, even virtuous. It makes the relentless hustle feel like a moral obligation you owe to yourself.
Okay, that's the ideological history. What about the economic structures? Are there historical precedents for how this digital labor actually works?
Oh, absolutely. The source argues the economic precedents are almost laughably old, just given a digital facelift. The clearest parallel is feudal sharecropping.
We touched on this with the tithe system. Let's flesh it out.
Right. The historical sharecropper didn't own the land. They worked the Lord's land, and in return for that access, they had to give the Lord a significant portion of the harvest. They provided the labor, took most of the risk, bad weather, poor soil, and the Lord took a guaranteed cut for providing the land.
Okay. And the digital parallel.
The digital solopreneur, the content creator, doesn't own the platform, the digital land. They work tirelessly to cultivate that land, creating content to the harvest, in return for access to the audience controlled by the platform owner, the digital lord.
They give the platform a huge share. Their content, their data, their engagement, which the platform monetizes directly through ads or indirectly through network effects.
Exactly. The creator provides the labor, takes on the risk, algorithm changes, burnout, market shifts, and the platform lord reaps the rewards for owning the infrastructure and controlling access. The economic relationship is structurally identical to sharecropping.
Precarious. Dependent.
Extremely. And we have to see this in the broader context of the gig economy precariat. The rhetoric is all about independence, being your own boss, freedom. But that rhetoric serves primarily to mask a deeply insecure, precarious form of labor.
The freedom is freedom from stability, benefits, worker protections.
Often, yes. The system brilliantly externalizes all the traditional costs and risks of employment healthcare, retirement savings, disability, equipment costs, market downturns directly onto the individual sovereign worker.
While the platforms and the gurus who sell the navigation tools capture the upside with minimal liability.
That's the structure. It atomizes the workforce, increases precarity, and calls it liberation.
So if we synthesize all of this, what's the final conclusion? What is this system, really?
The ultimate synthesis, according to this analysis, is that it's a closed ideological loop, a brilliantly constructed, self-justifying system.
How so? Self-justifying.
It masterfully uses the language people crave: rebellion, freedom, autonomy, escaping the grind, but it uses that very language to lure them into a new system of capture, a system that is arguably more pervasive, more demanding, and far less accountable than the corporate structures they sought to escape.
Because the control is internalized and algorithmic, not sitting in an office down the hall.
Precisely. So the true endpoint isn't freedom. It's conversion. Conversion into a node in the machine, a perpetual content production unit, and simultaneously a perpetual consumer of the tools, courses, and systems needed to keep producing.
You consume the guru's products to learn how to produce content,
Which feeds the platform algorithms.
which generates the audience the guru needs to sell more products.
While the powerful illusion of individual freedom and sovereignty is rigorously, meticulously maintained, it's a closed loop. ###tag cognitive liberation imperative.
Wow. Okay. We have really torn this apart. We've followed the logic, exposed the mechanisms, traced the history, the sovereign entrepreneur fantasy. It feels pretty thoroughly deconstructed right now.
The architecture is laid bare, hopefully. The systems, the beneficiaries, the contradictions.
So where does that leave us? Where does it leave you, the listener? We promise cognitive liberation. What does that actually mean in practice after hearing all this?
Well, the analysis suggests that true liberation, true escape from this loop, can't come from within the loop's own logic. You can't just find a better niche, or optimize your funnel more effectively, or switch to a different platform.
Because those are still actions defined by the system's rules, playing the game, just maybe slightly differently.
Exactly. Those are optimizations within the existing paradigm. The source material proposes something much more radical.
Which is?
True sovereignty, it argues, requires rejecting the fundamental premise that underlies the entire structure.
And that premise is?
The premise that your value as a human being is derived from your monetizable output, your productivity, your visibility, your hustle. That core belief, rooted in the Protestant work ethic and turbocharged by neoliberalism.
Rejecting the idea that you have to constantly prove your worth in the marketplace.
Yes, choosing consciously to exist outside that relentless measuring stick.
That sounds difficult, maybe terrifying in this economy.
It is presented as the daring act, the truly radical position you can take today in this hyper-optimized, constantly surveilled digital world
Is what?
is daring to exist, at least partly, outside marketplace validation, to allow parts of yourself, your time, your thoughts to be deliberately unoptimized, unproductive in market terms, intentionally unmonetizable.
To choose not to turn every hobby into a side hustle, every thought into content, every relationship into a networking opportunity.
Precisely. To be the glitch in the data matrix, the human anomaly that resists quantification and optimization. That, the source concludes, is the only genuine act of rebellion against the internalized tyranny we've spent this whole deep dive exposing.
It's not about finding a better cage. It's about daring to step outside the cage altogether, even if just for moments.
That's the pathway offered towards actual freedom, real sovereignty.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. So we've torn apart the sovereign entrepreneur fantasy. Now the real question is, what is the one idea you've held onto about work and freedom that you're finally ready to put on the chopping block?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative, deconstruct the dogma, see the system. We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical. Thank you for joining us.